It's Thursday again, tell everybody to lock in, grab some popcorn, a drink, and go and throw your AirPods in. It's the 1 hour show, constantly speaking facts. Bulletproof stats are always shooting from Matt. And when it comes to Kyle, you getting numbers and style. Jake is gonna educate you, he has that knowledge on file. Players, step your game up, don't be sluggish or lazy. Or Jimmy J might hit you with a shaky baby. Catch him on YouTube or any podcast platform. Breaking all the news down like Shaq does the backboards. No hot takes, this is where the hottest debate's at. Now kick your feet up, cause it's time for straight facts.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Straight Facts, a sports show that educates and entertains, presented to you by the Up On Game Presents Network. It's your boy, as always, Jimmy J, James Jackson, joined by my two guys, Kyle Sirik and Stat Matt Robinson. No Jake Galley at prior engagements, like Kyle did last week with the misses, so we always excuse that. You know, we're all perfect gentlemen on the podcast.
Is that what he's doing today? I didn't even see his text.
That is what he's doing, and it's funny because y'all know that y'all get your jail out of free card with me, because I'm never gonna give you any stink about spending time with your significant others. So y'all know that's how you get me. But we got a good episode slated for everybody. It's the season 2 finale. So just like we did last year, coming into what I like to call the dog days of the sports calendar in the summer, we go into the offseason as Straight Facts. So we know that we're a fact-based, stat-based podcast. We love it that way. But we have an offseason too, even off switch too. So as we go into this summertime, that's our time to get all the narrative talk out of the way, get all the big buzz talk out of the way. And then when football comes back, we hit the ground running again with our stats and our facts. So keep it locked. We're still dropping every week, still coming on the YouTube, still coming on to streaming services, just switching it up a little bit. But also big episode because we have a chance to end it on season 2 on a high note. It's our guy Kyle Sirik's last episode, a bittersweet episode for us today. So we know it's going to be a good one, but chance for Kyle to ride out in the sunset with us. So Kyle, you got to bring it today. You ready today?
Oh, I'm definitely ready to bring it. I'll touch up more on that at the end, at the buzzer, but I'm ready to bring it today, man. I got a little extra excitement in me, man. It's my last episode, but I'm still here. Still here to kill the episode. You got to lead the
people with something today. You got to lead the people with something to remember you by. Matt can't wait to shut it all down. But okay, let's get into it, because since we last talked, we had our guy Martin Sories from Basketball Society on. It was a great podcast, but he helped us kind of talk about as we were coming to the end of those NBA finals last Wednesday into Thursday. And then last Thursday, those finals abruptly ended. Steph Curry made sure that there were no more games for us to talk about. So the Warriors go back into Boston for Game 6, survive a torrid start from the Celtics, but end up pulling out a 103-90 victory. And just some quick, final recap talk. How did that Game 6 go for y'all? Because I was not expecting that. I remember on the pod last week, I was really talking heavily about, I was confident about how Boston could go back home, get their role players to play well, and force a Game 7. And then with 6 minutes left in the first quarter, it was very apparent that was not going to happen, that the Warriors were going to collect their 4th championship in 8 years. So, Matt, go ahead first. Just quick reactions from Game 6. How did that end for you?
The morning after the Celtics lost at home to lose the championship, the sun shined brighter, the birds sang louder, and everything was just bliss. It was great to watch.
Crazy.
And honestly, big relief to watch someone not named the Boston Celtics lift the trophy. And I'm happy for Golden State. And I'm honestly really happy that Curry has a Finals MVP, because he should have won one when he won his first title and he got robbed, and now people can't use that stupid argument against him. And there's been some we'll get to some legacy talk. We have that later. I just want to brag about my take before the finals, which was,
what was your take?
If the Celtics win the finals, Tatum will be MVP. But I don't think the Celtics win because Tatum isn't good enough to stand up to the defensive pressure of the Warriors. And Tatum had a I need to look myself in the mirror this summer kind of series. And he is the reason. I don't want to besmirch the Warriors, because the Warriors defense did it to him. But Tatum's lack of numbers is why the Celtics aren't the champions right now.
Yeah, I mean, yes, the Warriors forced it on them, but like this is your first finals run, and not everyone goes to the first finals like the Warriors and wins it. Like a lot of people go to their first finals and they take a hit, they take the loss to a more experienced team. That's all I saw from Jason Tatum. Like, yes, he's not going to be proud of this one, but this is something that like a growing pain that he has to go through, and that's just one example of a long list, a microcosm of him and Jaylen Brown's tenure together is about taking those lumps as a team, taking those lumps as a duo, overcoming that adversity, those growing pains as a duo. Jason Tatum is young. I think he'll be back. That's all that this was just another stripe that he has to earn into taking that next step as a basketball player. Like, dude's still only like 25, 26 years old, if that. So, like, I think he'll be fine. Like, he did take a hit though, but for just to answer your point there, Matt, like I think he'll be fine.
He's 24.
There you go.
No, he's 19.
Yeah, true. See?
But no, I agree with James, Eric, because it's a thing as well. The Boston fans shouldn't be discouraged by this. There's a lot of championships across all sports where you can see your team lose, and it's like discouraging because that might have been your only shot. This was the first shot of a Celtics team that has been getting closer and closer year after year to this point, and just because they didn't win the championship, they're probably set up to be the favorites in the East again next year going into the season as it speaks. I mean, it's them or the Bucks, but they're right there in the conversation. So I'm the same way, and I'm with Matt also, is that my take was correct. I said Warriors in 6. They're going to do it in Boston. Matt actually also said it. So going into that game, I was happy to root for the Warriors, but Martin actually last week, listening back to that episode, was kind of turning me on to some Celtic stuff because you could tell Martin, he did pick the Warriors, but he also was, wanted Boston to play better, wanted Boston to succeed, and really laid out some pathways of how they could do that. And it got me thinking like it's still a little closer, but in the end, I mean, the Warriors did it. What did I say going in? That Steph and Draymond aren't going to lose to a Jason Tatum led team. And that was it's a straight narrative take, but sometimes it works. And at this point, you had I'll call it second best dynasty of all time go up against the first comers. They're the first timers, the newcomers to the championship, and that's how it played out.
Yeah, it's funny because like you watch this series go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And going into game 6, I was the one who said, I don't see anything from the Warriors that have like me sold that this series is wrapped up. And then, like I said, halfway through the first quarter, I was like, wow, there it is. Now it's wrapped up. Like almost as soon as they came back from that run, they flipped a 10-point deficit into a 15-point advantage. And I'm like, oh, it's wrapped up. Like they don't come back from this at all. But to go back on the Jason Tatum point for a little bit, I had just had this little revelation, this little connection in my mind about the beginning of Jason Tatum's career as it is till now, and kind of how Kevin Durant's career like got started, especially how he got to these finals where his first finals run, he gets there a little bit earlier than expected. They're a good team, but no one's really expecting them to go to the finals and go to the championship. They go and meet a much more experienced, already legacy cemented LeBron James, who I guess is trying to get his first finals, but the player he is, the magnitude of LeBron James is already there, especially him in playoff runs. He's very experienced. So he goes up against that team, has a little bit of shine, but ended up getting run out the gym by it. And it's just one stripe and a lump and a hurdle. And Kevin Durant's ultimately very illustrious, very good, very star-studded career. So even just the way like those two teams, especially the running mates that he had in Russell Westbrook and Jaylen Brown, like there's just similarities there. It's why I'm confident that Jaylen Brown gets back to, this isn't a one and done thing for Jason Tatum and the Celtics. Like it's just another instance of why.
As long as Tatum and Brown are there, they're going to be in the mix. So like, I don't know if they get back because if you told people Kevin Durant would never make another finals with OKC, like he played 4 more years after that and they didn't make a finals, but they were still a lot of success and always in the mix. I just don't. I don't think you can compare Tatum to Durant just because the talent level is so different. Tatum's never been a top 5 player in the league. Durant at
He had
that
scoring
point
titles at that
has
point.
won like
right?
that was his third straight scoring title, I think.
Right,
I
right,
think
right.
and this is not a slight at Tatum. I think Tatum is essentially Carmelo Anthony if he was in today's game with a good team around him, because Carmelo a lot his Knicks team stunk because the team building around Melo was horrible. This would be like what Melo would be if he had a good team around him, and this would be a young Melo, obviously, because Tatum's young.
Right,
So I
right.
think that's the level of talent we're talking about, like a Melo level, not a Durant level.
Yeah, that's true. But in terms of let's stay on the legacy talk, because the legacy talk is good. It's what you do after a championship. And a certain one Steph Curry has now taken his seat and gotten his just due, because now it's time to reevaluate his legacy. So I'll pose the question: is Steph Curry now a top 10 player of all time? And if so, who are you taking out? Because the second part of that question is big.
Whew.
So
I did a lot
whoever,
of thinking. I did a
yeah,
lot
you
of
gotta
thinking.
ponder this one. You gotta ponder this one. And I am so interested to hear who you're taking out the top 10.
So I really, really, really wanted Curry to overtake Kobe in my top 10 list. I'd love
So
to say,
yes, so Steph is top 10.
but no, he's not. He's not quite. Kobe's defense, the amount of years Kobe was all defense, and the amount of Steph's dominant years, there just aren't enough of them for him to overtake Kobe yet. For me, if he 3 more years of him playing at this level, he overtakes Kobe. But he's number 11.
Kobe's the only option.
Kobe's my number 10. Kobe's been my number 10 for a while now.
I think that also maybe we need to talk about.
I'm going to run through my top 10. I'm going to run through my top 10 real quick. I'm not going to. So it's LeBron, Jordan, Wilt, Kareem, Russell, Magic, Bird, Shaq, Duncan, Kobe.
So I have the same exact top 10. We're shuffled around a little bit. This isn't the time to critique your top 10.
That's tough.
I think Kyle really wants to, but like, that's not the time to critique your top 10. But
no, I'm not going to critique it.
I disagree with Steph Curry not being in the top 10. I think as much as it was a huge narrative, and as much as, people kind of beat it to death, that fourth ring, that finals MVP in this fourth ring solidified it for him, because now it's something tangible that moves forward that says Steph Curry was the reason the Warriors won this championship. Like, I hear your argument about 2015 and that maybe that he got robbed, but like it was at some point it was recognized this was a full team effort of the Warriors that collectively beat LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I think a testament to that is Andre Iguodala winning that Finals MVP. Everybody had a hand in that pot. It wasn't definitively Steph Curry in this series that won them. Maybe aside from one game in the 2022 Finals, Steph Curry was the reason the Warriors won this NBA championship. And for him to get that Finals MVP, to finally be the quote-unquote bus driver in a series that he had to put a 40-point game, a high 30-point game, and win his team that series, puts him in there, and it puts him above. I'm sorry. You're not gonna like this one, Matt, but I'm sorry. I'm taking out Bill Russell. I'm taking out Bill Russell. Steph Curry is, and I'm one who likes to respect basketball of all eras. I love to respect 60s, 70s, 80s basketball. I do. But when you look at logistics, we are straight facts, can't get away with it. When you look at what, like 12 teams in the league, really only one superstar he had to go through, and the fact that someone could win 10 finals, go to 10 straight finals, the fact that someone could do that, like, it's just a testament to the difference of era. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm putting Steph Curry in my top 10, and Bill Russell is the one I'm taking out. OG got to go to 11. OG got to go to 11.
He's got to be in the. If you're going to put him top 10, he's got to be one of the ones in contention. I'm the same way, because I'm thinking about it now. When Matt lays out the list, it's tough. It's like, do I really want to put Steph above one of those guys?
I don't have Hakeem in that list either. Hakeem's my 12.
I don't put Hakeem.
I wouldn't put Hakeem there. I would say
I won't put Hakeem.
I have to put Steph in the top 10. No doubt in my mind.
Oh man, the resume. Come on, man.
Just from what I've seen, I mean, obviously this is our generation of basketball. Grew up as a kid with LeBron, and then LeBron's still obviously there, but then Steph has really dominated that next probably like these last 7 years. So between, I don't know who I want to take out, but it's gonna be either Russell, Wilt, Bird, or Duncan. So I'm just gonna cheat and
Can't
say
take Bird out. Can't take Bird out.
and I'm just gonna say Steph's the 7th best player, and those 4 are behind him. So I'm not even gonna think about who I'm kicking out for him, and you can think about how you want to rank those 4.
He's not ahead of Bird.
He's not. You can't take Bird out.
I
I
got
don't think
Bird.
he's ahead of Bird either, but you can't
I'm
take him out.
the resident Celtics hater here, and I'm your guy who's going to make me defend Bill
Cannot.
Russell and Larry Bird. It's unfair.
It's tough.
That's quite funny.
I'm not diving into the numbers. I'm not diving in like he can't be ahead of this guy at 6 or 7. But for me, that's the group of 4 that I think are next up if you have to kick someone off. And Steph, I know Steph. I want him in my top 10, so I'm just cheating. I'm saying Steph 7 and rank those 4 where you want, because Steph's in my top 10.
I'm fine with those 4. I'm
Steph
just
can
telling
be better
you.
than Duncan. That is a close call.
It's close. It's closer than you're making it appear, Matt. But Duncan, I still got him ahead of it. I'm just saying Bird's off limits. I'll live with any of the other ones.
No, I'm fine with that.
Duncan will hurt a little bit. I can
There's
live
an
with
argument against Bird because he got hurt and he only played 13 years. But in 1986, after they won the title, people were calling Bird the greatest of all time. It wasn't and Bird said, no, it's Russell. So that was, and that's actually like a thing that like Russell kept in his like a newspaper headline he kept like in his house in San Francisco.
Yeah, keep that one. He's probably the only person that really publicly said it like that. But like, yeah, I think Larry Bird is cemented in there. But it's something to think about, because I think what's good for Steph Curry, and by the way, if the reason that you should know he's top 10, if anyone's saying it, if I'm saying Steph Curry is top 10, like you talk about you're being a resident Celtics hater. I wish Jake was on here to really testify to this. Like, I was the biggest Steph Curry hater in the world. So, like, he really earned a lot of respect. And I think what's good for him is I think that's pretty much accepted now. I think that's common that Steph Curry should be looked at as top 10 of all time. I agree. A bunch of people were teetering. I think people wanted to, but the fact that he was never really like the definite greatest player on a championship team, I think was hurting a lot of people's ability to really.
He was clearly the best player on the Warriors team that won the title. You could argue whether or not he deserved Finals MVP. That's a different argument.
Okay,
but on that, he was the MVP of the league in 2015. They had the best record in the NBA, and they won the title, and he was their best player. Whether or not he was Finals MVP is a different thing. But he has been the best player on 2 title teams, and I don't think you can argue that.
Right. He was the best player on the 2015 Warriors. Was he the sole reason that they won the championship in that finals run? No. That's how I'll word that.
Sure.
And that's why they moved away from for finals MVP.
Also, I've got my answer. You know, I was keeping it up in the air because I didn't want to put one. I'm kicking out Wilt Chamberlain, because I think the reason you cement him on the list is the way he changed the game and literally changed the rules. Because if you look at like titles and everything, I have to have Russell ahead of him. And but my reason for leaving Wilt on the list.
Let him go.
My reason for leaving Wilt on the list is because he was literally unguardable in that era of basketball. They had to change the rules for him, and he was super dominant. At the same time in the league, Bill Russell was basically just as dominant. And if you look over a larger span of time, because Russell did it over a longer span of time, I have to have Russell above Wilt. But the argument for leaving him on the list is the same reason I want to put Steph Curry on the list, because he changed the game of basketball in a more modern, more competitive era of basketball. And I think his 4 titles and the dominance he's been on these last 7 or 8, maybe even you want to stretch it to 9 years, is more impressive to me. So I'm putting Steph, and Wilt's the one I want to take off. It's so hard. You wish a top 10 included 11 players, because I think you can draw a cutoff at that 11 line. But it's weird. You got to kick one out, and I'm going to go. In my book, I have to kick out Wilt.
The reason I hesitate to kick out Wilt is because I truly think that Wilt could have been dominant in
I
any
agree.
era of
No,
basketball.
I agree. I agree.
I
I'm
don't know
judging
if
off their resume now.
you know what I mean. You got to be where they were. I hear you. I think if Russell played today, he'd be a good player. I don't think he'd be dominant like he dominated back then. Wilt would still probably be one of the most athletic players on the floor if he played today. He was an Olympic champion. So
Right.
I can make a more justifiable case.
Wilt
that
has
his
to be
numbers
top 10.
not
Wilt
50 30.
absolutely has to be
I mean, he
top
averaged
10.
50 and 30 in one season. Like they're
it's
video
tough.
game numbers.
It's
They're video game
tough.
numbers.
He played every minute in the fastest pace ever. The
Yeah,
fastest pace in the end history, fastest paced NBA season ever was 1961-62.
Well, Matt, here's the thing.
He played every minute, running up and down the floor.
You can't act like our answers are so blasphemous when you chose Kobe.
Kobe was the best player on 2 teams that won a title. Same as Steph Curry.
Like
and I still have. That's it. And he didn't have to go against the greatest dynasty of all time, which was the Celtics of the '60s.
Well, yeah, Matt. Wilt Chamberlain only has 2 titles, Matt. Wilt Chamberlain only has 2 titles.
Yeah, because there was 11 won by the best team that was ever assembled based on the era comparatively.
Sure, but there were way less teams, and Kobe still won 5 titles.
Yeah, because Shaq got him 3.
All right, well, how many teams was Wilt Chamberlain the best on a title team? How many teams?
He was the best player on the Sixers and the Lakers.
I can't hold it against Kobe.
Same as Kobe.
And he was Game 7 against the 1965 Eastern Conference Finals. The inbounder throws the ball away. Havlicek steals the ball. They're down 1. That's not on Wilt. Wilt had grit. I'm not here to nitpick
gameplay of a 1960s
Matt wants to nitpick the arguments. I'm gonna nitpick that one. Kobe was only the best player on 2 championship teams.
He was.
That's all Wilt got.
Kobe was never the best player in the NBA at any point.
That I got to disagree with too.
Yeah, I got to disagree with that as well.
But that's a whole nother argument. It's a whole nother tangent. But my only point is, I think Kyle's are just as justifiable as you taking Kobe Bryant out of a top 10 list of all time. But that just goes to show you where Steph Curry has put his name in, like, permanently. Like he is now at this table amongst the all-time greats, the 1% of the 1% who's ever played in the NBA. And I think this Finals MVP definitely 100% solidified that. So the NBA goes into the offseason. The Warriors now officially have their 4th championship in 8 years. And another thing that Matt has to defend himself with, put his back up against the wall as we end this Warriors talk and this legacy talk. Kyle, at the beginning of the finals, made the statement that if the Warriors would win this finals, they would be the 2nd best dynasty of all time behind Jordan Chicago Bulls. And Matt struck it down vehemently, just like he struck down all these arguments today. So, Matt, what do you have to say for yourself back on the stand as they do win 4 and 8? All this legacy talk comes out about Steph Curry, the Warriors, their dynasty. What do you have to say now as it stands?
The 80s, like it's hard to argue with the 11 and 13 Celtics. So I'm just gonna do post merger because I think that's what's fair. So merger was 76, and the 80s Lakers were just unbelievable. They won 5 chips. They went to 9 finals. If you include 91, so from 80 to 91, that's 12 years. They went to 9 and they won 5. That's more impressive than what the Warriors did. And an important point is that they didn't miss the playoffs, which the Warriors did twice. The Warriors missing the playoffs twice hurts their standing among dynasties. And they're clearly not above that Lakers dynasty. And it's tough to compare them to the 99 to 07 Spurs, because the 99 to 07 Spurs, that's during the Shaq and Kobe era, and they still won 4 titles, which is incredible, but they never went back to back. So that's they're in that tier. There's a flaw in both of them. There's no flaw in the Lakers of the 80s and no flaw in the Bulls of the 90s.
What's the flaw in the Warriors?
They missed the playoffs twice. And they have the lowest amount of titles among and 4 is less than 5, and 6, obviously, if we're going to
the flaw of the Lakers is the last 2 years you're including were years they lost the championship.
Yeah, but that still counts as
Pistons,
part
right?
of a run.
Sure. I guess, but I think this one coming back though, the Warriors were the most dominant team in the league, most dominant team maybe of all time in the 73-9 year. They did lose the finals that year, but won it the 3 years around that. And to bring it back, to get rid of the KD talk, right? To bring it back with the original core who have reshaped the game of basketball and to win it again, and who says they're even done yet now, but I know we're just judging off what we've seen. I think this is the second best dynasty. I think it's a more competitive league, and I think the level that they did it on now is just as comparable to the level the Lakers did it on the 80s.
I agree. And Matt, you made an interesting point with like how would you put the Spurs in this top tier of best dynasties of all time? And it's very comparable to why I think the Warriors are the second best dynasty of all time, because you talk about the Lakers in that 80s run, who dominated that from a player standpoint, who dominated that decade of basketball?
Magic,
Who'd
Bird,
you
and
say?
Kareem.
So two of those
In
three
the early
the three-
80s was Kareem. But
right,
yeah.
it was the three I would say too, and then you talk about the Pistons in the latter part. But those three, Magic, Bird, and Kareem, two of those three are on the team that you're talking about is in that best dynasty. What's so impressive about this Warriors run and why I think they're the second best dynasty is LeBron James has dominated this decade of basketball. It's been LeBron James's era, and they have won 4 championships within that while he's doing it. Much like you're talking about why the Spurs were so productive and so impressive, but the Spurs were a different argument. It actually makes me think about that Spurs dynasty a little higher because of this point. But that is so impressive to me that we know by and far and large, this is LeBron's era of basketball. No one's going to try to take that away from him. But within that midst, you have to talk about 4 championships, 7 finals appearances,
6 finals appearances.
6 finals appearances, a back-to-back MVP, unanimous MVPs, a 2-time defensive player of the year, one of the best scorers of all time adding to their team. That you have to talk about all of these things in the midst of LeBron James's era. To me, that puts them higher than the Lakers. Puts them
I also like
Spurs.
I also like to throw in right before you go, Matt, that you're clearly holding the 2 years they missed the playoffs against them. Fair enough, but both of those years were because of injury, and one was a COVID year. I mean, they were not full strength in that year, and every single other year they made the NBA Finals. When they did make the playoffs, they didn't fall short once.
Yeah, but
they made the NBA Finals every single time and were held off because of injuries. And you can throw in COVID if you want, but even that year, you could just chalk up the injuries as well.
They were the worst team in the NBA one year.
because all of the players were hurt.
Absolutely everything went wrong. I get it. KD left. Curry got hurt. Clay got hurt.
Was already hurt.
And there was like
Draymond
nobody
missed time too.
Yeah, Draymond didn't try.
Wiggins was hurt. Wiggins was hurt. I mean, literally, they were all hurt. Alec Burks was like the face of that team for a solid 2 months.
And what they do, draft a dude that might extend their dynasty, might extend their run. They drafted him. So
that was that year, Jordan Poole's rookie year.
Yeah, that was Jordan Poole's rookie year.
He played like 30 minutes and shot like 25% from 3. And they just kept playing him to develop him, which is smart, which is an argument against my point.
Yeah.
I just think when you're talking about the best of the best, I think that 16-17 Warriors are the greatest team to ever play. The first year of I
agree.
So, I just think the dominance of the I just think if you're just talking post-merger, there's 2 clear, unbelievable, dominating teams, and that's the Bulls of the 90s, the Lakers of the 80s, and then there's everyone else, and they're in the top end of everyone else with the Spurs.
I don't know how you don't throw the Warriors right in with there. I don't know how that's not a group of 3.
When the Warriors won titles, they didn't, like, the only time they went every other was when the Cavs beat them in 2016. Every other time they went a back-to-back. That's what dynasties do. Win a back-to-back, they three-peat, they do all that. When the Lakers were winning titles, they were going back-to-back or every other with the Celtics. Like they didn't.
Lakers won in 80. Lakers won in 80, 82, not 83, 94, 85, 87, 88.
Okay, so they
They
repeated
went
once.
back to back once, and then they lost in the finals in
So their
89
first
and
four
91.
finals was over a 7-year
Bing,
span.
bing, 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 bing. Yeah, the Warriors didn't do that. The Warriors did. When they got theirs, it's mine. And the only time we lose it is when LeBron goes Super Saiyan and we got two players that get hurt in the same series. It's the only time we lose it. Every other time we're winning this chip and barely losing in the playoffs. I'm just.
I'm fine with Matt putting the Lakers above them, but it's a group of three. It's not a group of two. It's a group of three dynasties.
I don't put the Showtime Lakers above this.
I don't agree with Matt, but it's not the Lakers, the Bulls, and the drop off, and the Warriors are just the top end of that drop off. It's a group of three in the conversation.
If anything, the Lakers might be the top end of that drop off.
Honestly, what's holding me back?
The Celtics might be the top end of that drop off.
What's holding me back is I just don't think this Warriors team was that great this year. This Warriors team. They were good. They were very good, but they were clearly the worst team of all the teams that have made the finals for them. And it was just kind of
that's not bad though. Every dynasty is going to have a worse team.
I view it as they had three great champions and one they got a championship because just grit, experience, and like all the intangibles that you want, which is great, but nothing about watching. It's been, and then they almost lost to Houston in 2018, and Houston lost that game. So in my mind, it's been like almost 5 years since I've seen the peak of it, and that might be clouding my judgment.
Maybe BB, who's in front of you. Like, and you're right. Celtics might not have been like their toughest finals opponent, but you beat who's in front of you.
God, Giannis would have been such a fun matchup for them.
Yeah, it would have presented a whole lot of problems. It would present a whole lot of problems for them boys. But they did what they did. They wrapped up the series. And like we keep saying, the scary part is like they may not be done yet. Like who knows when they come back next year, they get a fully healthy Klay Thompson, because Klay was only started in January and he was this effective, only started in January after missing 2 years. They get a fully healthy Klay Thompson, a healthy James Wiseman. They mix in Moses Moody. They get Jonathan Kuminga more minutes. Like it's like they have so much untapped potential over there with the Warriors. We could still be talking about them for the next 5 to 10 years. Like that's so ridiculous. But let's move on from the pros to those hopeful pros, as the NBA draft is set to come out. When you guys listen to this, will be Thursday night tonight. As we're recording, it's tomorrow night. But the NBA draft is set. Kyle and I were talking about before we came on how it kind of snuck up on us this year. We don't know if it's earlier this year, but it's like, you know, a week after the season's, you know, stopped.
Even if it's earlier, it's earlier in my mind.
It's all the draft is always this time because it's always right around my birthday, so I'm used to it.
Oh, happy birthday!
I feel like it's not always a week and a half after the finals end. Did they push the playoffs longer this year? I don't know.
I know for a fact that in 2016 it was June 23rd because on my birthday we drafted Ben Simmons.
Oh, how's that sit with you?
At the time, I liked it.
For like 5 years.
It was for about like 5 years. It was nice.
It was nice, right?
Your birthday's tomorrow, man.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, happy birthday, man.
Happy birthday, man. Happy early birthday. Make sure y'all Straight Facts listeners, you wish Matt a happy birthday on the socials, man. I'd be mad if y'all don't. But getting back to those draft picks, as the draft is slated tomorrow night, we have 4 potential number 1 picks that everyone's talking about. Paolo Banchero, Chet Holmgren, Jabari Smith, and Jaden Ivey with an outside chance to go number 1. So I'll pose this to y'all really quick. Who do you guys think is going to go number 1 to the Orlando Magic?
Well, it's who I think is going to go number 1. It's who I think should go number 1, and who I think is the best fit for the Orlando Magic and the best prospect in this draft, and that's Jabari Smith. I've felt that way since before March Madness, to be honest. But in terms of going number 1, it makes the most sense for the Magic. They've loaded up on guards in the past few drafts: Suggs, Cole Anthony, and I think their last big man they picked was probably Bamba and Wendell Carter. I think this is a perfect guy to throw into that roster, the culture that they have there. Can play wing, can play stretch, can play big if you need him. Not to mention they got Markelle Fultz, and I just think he is the best prospect. I'm not completely sold on Chet Holmgren yet. Me and James are talking about it. Like, what's the best version of that been? Because we've seen a couple of these type of players join now, and we were saying it's Kristaps. Now Now, do I think Chet could be better than Kristaps? Yes. But I'm not ready to.
That's a better passer than Kristaps.
Oh no, yeah, no, two like different type of games, but these
Yeah.
unicorn type of players.
Right.
I'm not completely sold on it yet, and I think the first one really is going to be next year with Victor. I'm not even going to try to say his last name, but yeah, I would say it's probably Jabari 1 for me. I think Paolo is the best player right now. If I were the Thunder at 2, I would take Paolo, not Chet Holmgren, and then I'd rank it probably Chet and Jaden Ivey. But Jabari Smith for me, I'd lock in at number 1.
Matt, go ahead. Who you got at number 1?
I'm gonna go with the wild card in Jaden Ivey. I just think Orlando,
I like Jaden Ivey.
Orlando for their entire history has tried to have like the stalwart center that is their core to win, and it never quite works out. So Shaq left after 4 years. Dwight Howard fell out with the coach. Vucevic he wasn't good enough. Mo Bamba too young to say, but it's not looking like he's a star. So it's there, and they need to try a different formula. Build around someone who is not 6'10" or higher, taller. Build around a guard. I don't know much about Jaden Ivey. How ball dominant is he?
Enough. I would say
enough.
his talent shows the most when he has the ball. And the thing about Jaden Ivey is he's so fast. Like, there's not many guys that move on a basketball court the way he can. Not many guys that just can. And as a 6'4" with good size, if you put a good basketball package around that, it gets really dangerous.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he gets compared his movements to the quickness and the explosiveness of like a John Moran at the guard position.
Yeah,
it's 6'4" body.
It's crazy sometimes.
It's ridiculous, which is why I think that it's movable too off the ball. Like, he wasn't the true point at Purdue. He was really ball dominant, but as a guard, he's operated as a 2 guard next to a point guard, and in college, a point guard is essential in college. Every college has a true point guard. So he's already learned how to play off the ball a little bit, and you get that explosiveness on the perimeter. Like, I know there's a cesspool of guards down there in Orlando, but I'm with you, Matt. Like, I really like Jaden Ivey as a prospect, and if I'm looking at Orlando,
another Orlando high draft pick big that didn't really work.
There you go. So you're moving away from the bigs. So you would put Jabari Smith in that big tier for them as to why you move away from them. Yeah, I don't know. I really like Jaden Ivey. The other one, if it's not Jaden, then I probably would swing Paolo Banchero into that number 1 slot. Like, I agree with you, Kyle. I think he's the best player
right now
in this draft.
Yeah,
in this draft. And I also see like a huge upside. I didn't really love his game in college. You guys remember when we were talking about the NCAA tournament, the episode like 32 or something like that. I said how I thought Paolo Banchero was one of the most overrated, or Duke was one of the most overrated because of them leaning on Paolo Banchero. I didn't love his game, but he showed me a lot in the NCAA tournament, showed me a lot of toughness, showed me a more array of moves than I'd see him have in the regular season. His game built a little bit. So when I look at like the size, the strength, the already NBA movements, he doesn't play in a hurry. Like Jaden Ivey sometimes can play in a hurry. He never plays in a hurry. He's solid in his movements. Like, I think he would be a very good pick at number 1. And at this point for Orlando, like, just get someone right to build around. Like, I hear you, Matt. You don't want to go. They have big man bad history. Kyle, I hear you that there's a bunch of guards, but at this point, if you're the Magic, get one right. Like, you might want to get the right pick for your team, the right position, but how about you get a draft pick that hits, a number 1 overall pick that hits? You've had a couple of them. Why don't you just focus on that? And I think Paolo Banchero and Jaden Ivey, to me, would be ones to do that.
Yeah, I like Paolo a lot. To me, he's 2. Maybe I actually would there Jaden above Chet Holmgren. I don't like Chet. It's weird.
What's your problem with Chet Holmgren? I don't get it.
I'm
also very high on
translating
Chet.
to the NBA level. I saw it at Gonzaga, but this is how he ran. He was a good defensive big man at Gonzaga, 4 blocks per game. Not going to happen in the NBA. With that frame, it's not going to happen. And if it does happen, it's 4 years down the road from today, right? And offensively, they asked him to do a lot of guard type of stuff. And his game's going to have to shift. And the allure of him is, the passing, being able to dribble, being that tall, and being able to do a lot of stuff. But in the NBA, the fact of the matter is you're around 4 other pros on your team, and unless you're a superstar, you're not really asked to do all of that stuff, and it's not going to translate to crazy numbers if he's not a superstar for Chet. I think he'll be a good player, a stretch if he hits the threes, which I have no worries that he will. But in the draft like this, where I think the top four guys are really strong and really project to all of them can become all-star players, all of them could become superstar players, I throw Chet on the bottom side of that.
Yeah, for me, he seems like a more talented Lauri Markkanen. Which is like he's
okay,
a good...
which is right.
No,
It's
no,
just
but,
good.
that,
That's
but like, no, but when you're drafting number 1 overall, that's not. You're trying to get a Hall of Famer. You're
what
not
did
trying
Laurie
to get
go?
a more
7?
talented Lauri Markkanen. Like he's a real. I think he'll be a really good piece to have on contending teams. I think if he's your 3rd best player, you're in a really good shot. But he doesn't scream like the guy he doesn't look like the guy that can take you to the promised land.
Well, if we're going to use that argument, I don't know if I see future Hall of Fame talent in anywhere in this draft. I see very good players. I don't know if I pick someone.
Every draft other than the 2000 draft, every draft has one Hall of Famer.
Yeah, projected out of their career. Yes, but I don't know if I look at one player and say like that's future Hall of Fame talent right there. That's electrifying. You know what I mean?
Well,
so,
you don't want to hype people up too much either. But just if I see someone as a 15% better version of a good player today, like that's not going to get anyone really excited about the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, well, because if that's where they're starting, that'll get me excited if that's where they're starting, because that's crazy upside, man. My argument for Chet Holmgren, and a lot of people want to bring out the physique, the size, how slender he is. I get it. I don't see anything different about his body type than I see with Evan Mobley, and people love Evan Mobley as a prospect, still love him right now as coming 2nd in Rookie of the Year voting. Like I don't see any crazy difference in their body types at all. But Chet Holmgren has more of an outside game than Evan Mobley does. Definitely handles the ball better, passes better. I think his ability to really stretch the floor like that might get him out of those situations where he's got to bang more, where he's got to be more physical. Like eventually, yes, I know that in the NBA that can't escape you, but he's going to be able to get a lot done from that 15 to 20 foot range. That's really going to help his game, maybe open up the floor for a lot of people. Like I see Chet Holmgren as a person.
And you're right. He's got more, but
let me finish a little bit.
You got it.
When you look at the defensive side of the ball, yes, 4 blocks isn't gonna continue, but he doesn't get his blocks with power and force. It's timing on all of his block shots. That's why when people said he averaged 7 blocks a game in high school, people were like, he's not gonna do that in college. They're bigger in college. And what does man do? 4 blocks a game in college. Like that kind of technique, that kind of ability to time the basketball and go get it with a damn near 8-foot wingspan. Like I think that kind of stuff translates. And no, it may not be the most powerful blocks, but all you need to get is a piece of the ball on the way up to affect a shot. And he's very good at doing that. So yeah. I see Chet Holmgren making an impact in the NBA. Maybe not future Hall of Fame talent, man. I'll give you that. But I definitely see him affecting the NBA.
Yeah, he will. I don't love the Mobley comparison. You're right. From 15 to 20, he'll be more effective. But Mobley was effective enough. And Chet's not going to have it inside that Mobley has. And when the game speeds up, I don't think the blocks stay there. Mobley was 6th in the league in blocks this year. I mean, like, I think I get the comparison, kind of, but I'm taking Mobley's career. Type. I'm taking Mobley. I'm taking Mobley over Holmgren if Mobley was in this draft. I know we've had a year of NBA experience to kind of, lengthen that take and give me, maybe I'm a little biased now, but I'm taking Mobley as it stands compared to what I think Chet's going to be.
More polished game from Mobley, but the comparison I'm making is in their body type. Very similar body type, very different games. But I think Chet Holmgren's outside game, like we see the movement of NBA, like bigs that can stretch the floor like that, and not just stretch the floor scoring. Stretch the floor passing, stretch the floor with their vision, with their playmaking, being able to set good screens, being able to be like that is so useful in today's NBA. It's what's going to make him a solid player, like a very good and solid player. And you know what, Matt? I may be able to live with 15 to 20% better than Larry Marketing. I as a NBA GM, I may very much like that because I can do something with that.
For me, if I'm picking two, OKC actually wouldn't be a bad spot for him because they have a million picks they can fill out in other ways too. But if like that, but in a normal scenario, that's a guy I'm happy with if I get like fourth, but not like it's the margins, because when you're that bad to get that pick, you need a savior. And look, I like Chet Holmgren a lot. He's a high floor, medium ceiling player for me. And I think at two, or when you're one of those teams, I think you'd rather take a high ceiling, low floor player because the potential.
Right. So you see Jaden Ivey's ceiling higher than Chet Holmgren's ceiling?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. As I was asking that question, I very much do too. And here's the thing: it's not like Chet's getting disrespected. He's still in every conversation that anyone has in the discussion for the number one overall pick. People just if I had to rank him, people rank him 4, which means he's not sliding in anyone's mind below 5,
Below
6.
5, yeah. Like I think Benedict
I mean?
Mathurin could be the only one we could maybe see go above those top 4 groups of guys, but I think that's pretty set.
Yeah, there's a guy from G League Ignite that's been shooting up draft boards lately. Something Daniels, I forget his first name right now.
Dyson Daniels.
Dyson Daniels, yeah, who's starting to shoot up draft boards. So look out for his name too. But yeah, like I just want to make sure that I get the Chet Holmgren point out because like I've been obviously following his game since high school, and this was, you remember his high school recruiting, it followed this similar path of like no one knew who he was getting very overlooked, wasn't even ranked. Then all of a sudden, I think goes to the Steph Curry camp or something like that, has a crazy showing, and all of a sudden is now number 2 in his class and ends up being number 1 in his class as he's going to Gonzaga. So it goes from a lot of people doubting him to all of a sudden one day everyone waking up and he's the next best thing. So I think this kind of follows a similar path. So we'll see how that
have him hit up Giannis's nutritionist. We saw Giannis put on 50 pounds of muscle. Chet only needs you're not going to get 50 pounds of muscle. That's the freak we're talking about. But give me 25, 30 pounds of muscle. And
Joel too.
And we'll see what happens. Yeah.
Or follow the Joel method. Sit on your ass, eat a bunch of Chick-fil-A sandwiches and milkshakes, and then one day get up and turn all of it into muscle and never look back. You might have to do that. All right, yo. So that's a good way to segue into our next point. Just really quick, as we look forward to the draft on Thursday night, is there anything you guys are looking forward to in particular, looking to happen on draft night that might shake things up?
Yeah, I need to see a team reach for AJ Griffin just for the hype, because AJ Griffin's going to be a stud. He's currently getting mocked. He's getting mocked in like the 10 to like 15 range. I don't think he drops out of the lottery. But then the other thing I need to see is my secondary team, my Charlotte Hornets, unless they trade Terry Rozier. But for now, I'm going to treat it like Terry Rozier still in the Hornets. I need them to take a big man. And I think Mark Williams is in the perfect slot to fall where the Hornets pick at 15. And I'm a big fan of Mark Williams. So that is like one thing, especially like, I don't know what the Sixers are going to do. I'm not going to go anything there because I have so many thoughts about that. But if Mark Williams is there at 15, I think it lines up perfectly for the Hornets. They need a big man like that, one that could come in and play. It's been a huge spot on their team that they've just been missing for like 6 years, even before Terry got there. It was like Cody Zeller was the starter there with Biyombo for like 4 years straight. And they moved on from that. And last year, the big man position was a toss-up. So Mark Williams to the Hornets at 15 is one thing that I need to see if Terry Rozier is playing for that team next year.
I like Mark Williams on the Hornets. I really like that one. That's a really good fit for them. I like that.
I need to see some Daryl Morey magic.
Yeah,
because all the stuff that I've seen floating around is a little too weird for me, like a 3-year contract with a 37-year-old PJ Tucker. But I really do think the Sixers are gonna trade Matisse Thybulle and the 23rd pick for something tomorrow night, and it could be nothing, and they're just trying to free up cap space. But I think there's a target that Morey wants that we don't know about yet, and I think we're gonna have a better
Durant.
idea of what that is in about 48 hours.
Matt's looking for that. Matt saw AJ Brown. They saw Mr. Roseman do his work, get AJ
he
Brown
wants to
in the first
splash.
round, and we need the Sixers splash now. Okay,
He wants to splash.
I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't hate it.
We don't have to spend too much time on this. I had this debate earlier. I don't know why y'all are so stuck on the fact that PJ Tucker might get 3 for 30, but y'all got to come to terms with that because 3 for 30 is a great deal in itself. I get that he's 37.
Yeah,
but
that's the downside.
He brings in exactly what the Sixers need and has just aided 2 very successful teams in doing exactly what he does for those teams. So, and like, it's nothing you can't move. You bring him in, and that first year, you're like, oh, this doesn't work. Like 2 for 20 after that to move that contract, like, you're going to be able to move that. There's nothing that you're tied to with PJ Tucker. So go ahead and offer
I
him.
don't hate 3 for 30. It just is like, this is like, if this is what's rumored, you're trying to rumor a better scenario. So like, if we've got PJ Tucker 3 years 30, I will think that is a positive signing for the Sixers.
Positive signing.
But I don't think it's the best we can do.
Nothing but a positive signing. Here's what I think is going to happen on draft night. I think Denver has those 2 first-round picks, one courtesy of my Phoenix Suns. Thank you. I want to see them, and I think they will get funky with them first-round picks. I think they're at a point right now where there's a little bit of a question mark in Denver. Jamal Murray has now spent a really extended time away from the team. You hope that he's going to be back and come back to Jamal Murray that we know. But if he doesn't, now you have to look at the young players who you're starting to step up. You have a lot of money tied to Michael Porter Jr. You have Bones Highland, who showed a lot of promise. You have a question mark at Aaron Gordon.
Monte Morris has shown promise too at guard.
Monte Morris has shown promise. So Denver has a huge opportunity and obligation to do something with those 2 first-round picks, whether it's package them or you make a splash and go try to solidify a crazy big 3 with Jamal Murray, Jokic, and somebody else, or if you use that to package up to move up to go and get a splasher to help you out. But that Denver can't get complacent with those 2 first-round picks. There's a reason you traded Phoenix to get an extra one. Use it. Do something really good with it, because I think Denver is in a limbo right now. In the thick of the Western Conference, they need to move themselves to the top of it. But we're all looking forward to draft night, man. It's where dreams come true. It's where things are made. Over under about how many people cry on draft night. I'm setting it for 62 draft picks, 60 draft picks.
Just do the first round. Count the first round.
First round.
Out of the 30.
Over under 8. Over under 8 or 9.
Does it have to be the players? Because I know every mom and some dads are going to be crying.
The parents cry. Players.
Under.
I don't know if
I'm going to go 5 or 6.
I'm going over.
Yeah, I'm with Matt here. I think 5 or 6.
It's the thing now. It's acceptable to cry. It's the thing.
Since Zion did it, yeah.
And reporters try to make him cry now. And lucky Maria Taylor isn't with ESPN anymore because her goal is to get you to cry.
Yeah.
She bringing up all the sob stuff. She trying to get them tears going. So I'm going to over right there with number 8. But one more side of time for this episode of Straight Facts. It was a go one, but as always, have some shots up at the buzzer. Matt, you're gonna have to go first this time. So go ahead, get your shot at the buzzer.
I just want I had a fun work story. I sold a phone to two convicted fraudsters, which was fun.
There you go. You're helping the cause out here.
Yeah,
thank you.
Former Chester County Sheriff Bunny Welsh, her real name's Carolyn, and her longtime boyfriend Terry McGinty, were convicted of fraud charges about a year ago. They're key members in local politics in this area, and I've a long time had a disdain for her, and it was fun that I'm gonna make some money off them because I'm gonna throw every accessory at them.
Oh, so it's not. I thought you were gonna say this was like illegal for you to do. So like,
no.
Question to it.
No. They didn't. Their rich white people, they just pay a fine.
Yeah, that's true. It all goes away. Yeah, Matt, get anything out of them, man. Like, flip the
Well, it's
tables
Chester
on
County
them.
tax dollars that they defrauded us, and so I'm getting I'm double screen protecting them. I'm giving them liquid glass and tempered glass.
There
I'm
you
gonna
go.
give them the camera
Look it.
protectors that crack all the time. I'm
He
gonna get
says this
everything
now.
possible.
He says this now. In a year, we're gonna look up and Matt's gonna be in the ring with them, running the operation behind the scenes from inside Verizon. We're gonna hear about it in the papers. But Kyle, go ahead, man. Get your shot up at the buzzer.
Yeah, James alluded to it. This is my last episode. I guess we really haven't talked about it on the show. I did let the guys know, James, Matt, and Jake. Sad Jake can't be here. I let them know a couple months ago.
Yeah.
I'm moving on. The guys know why. I mean, my life has moved on since I started here over almost 2.5 years now, which is crazy to even think about how long we did this. I just wanted to say thank you guys for the opportunity to do this. This has been awesome. To the Straight Facts listeners, it was so cool when I'd get a text from my friends or people I didn't even know, just talking about sports, and it's been a really cool opportunity talking sports with you guys every week. The work we've put in, and it's not just the 60 minutes that we do the show for. We put in a lot more work. The group chat, especially on the weeks where we really got going. I mean, we were putting in a ton of work, and I came into this not really knowing these guys. I didn't know Matt at all. I knew James a little bit, and I only knew Jake by name. And now I've really been able to walk out of it with 3 guys I can call friends. And I wish you guys nothing but success with this. I'm not going to be on the show anymore. I told them I'm going to be their number 1 fan, though. I'm still going to be tuning in every week for the guys. So just thanks for the opportunity. Straight Facts listeners, thank you for being so supportive. This has been an awesome thing, but it's time for me to move on, and that's kind of where we're at now.
Hey, man.
Yes,
Matt,
thanks, Kyle. It's been great to work with you and become friends with you too. I'm happy that you're getting to a better space, and you're doing what's making you feel better and everything, which is great. But I'm gonna miss having you on the pod, and you're welcome back anytime. If you want to come in as a guest pod, yeah,
I'll get some guest spots in.
Got to, because when Matt gets to Wildland, there's only a certain number of people that can get at him, and you're one we might need to call in the reinforcements. But yeah, man, no, definitely, you walked out with, at least from my point of view, and I'm sure Matt and Jake will echo with this, more than a friend, man. It takes a special kind of bond and friendship to do a pod for this long together. And Matt knows, and Matt's been with us for just as long and longer, that you can't do this with just anybody. You can't grow a show with any people. So you really learn to get a deeper kind of friendship. So man, I look at you as a pod brother, and someone who you'll always have my number, always be able to hit me up, and you'll always get a response from me. But I want to use my at the buzzer to kind of just piggyback off what Kyle said, and just share my appreciation for what Kyle was able to bring to the podcast. Just peeling back the curtain for all the listeners out there. He came to us and in a pandemic, came to us and said, hey, I love your guys' show. I love what you guys bring. Am I able to come on and help in any way? And at first, he wasn't even on camera. You guys didn't even see Kyle at first when he joined the podcast. He was on as just a statistician. He would stay in the background, provide live stats, help us out where anything we need, mark where he thought we had good clippable moments, all the little stuff he was able to do. And he really showed us from the beginning how much that not only he cared about sports, but how much he enjoyed being with the pod, how much he enjoyed working on it. So we had no choice, and we're happy to elevate him to, becoming on for video and just being a full-time member that you guys would see and hear all the time, and then stuck with us through a pandemic, and then out the other side of it till we got to do some bigger things, going into a studio, getting with Up On Game Network. As the show has grown, I can't think about it without thinking the contributions that Kyle did for us, man. It was really awesome for you to reach out to us to come on and to put that work in after it, man. So we're forever grateful for you, bro. Really gonna miss you, man, as the leader of this thing, man. It's really tough, but like Matt said, wish you nothing but the success in whatever you're doing. He also works at the same company as my dad, y'all. So if I need to keep tabs on Kyle. I know who to go to. I'm going to the big dog. I know who to go to keep some tabs on him. But as always, man,
I appreciate it, guys. I'm gonna miss it, man. I really am. As a life choice, it was something I had to move on with. But James, especially because you texted me after, like it wasn't an easy decision to come by. I am really gonna miss it. And back off, like, yeah, more than friends, especially if me and James some of the times over text messages, even the times we were going back and forth, man, we always came out stronger on the other side, and it's
for sure.
It's been awesome, guys.
I
appreciate it.
Yeah, there's a certain instance that Kyle's thinking of. You guys don't even know the dirty details, but it's why I say you can't do this with just anybody, because not everybody is able to make it out the other side of something like that and know that we still have the same vision, have the same goals, and want the same things for the show and for each other. All four of us share that. So, Kyle, man, we could go on forever and ever in talking about this. It's tough to wrap something like this up, but mainly because we don't want to say goodbye to Kyle, but we will and we have to. That's all the time we have for this episode of Straight Facts. It was a great one, a bittersweet one, but a great one. Shout out to my guy Jake Galley out there. He'll join us back again next week. Shout out to everybody on the Up On Game Presents Network, LeVar Arrington, Plexico Burrs, and TJ Husmanzada. And shout out to my guys, Kyle Sirik and Stat Matt Robinson. I'm James Jackson. These have been the facts.
Straight up.
Sir.